Welcome to the Watch Society.
Welcome to the weekly Watch News Roundup. Let's start this week with some good news. Anthony Farah, a.k.a. the Timepiece Gentleman, has pleaded guilty and is going to 6 years in prison for wire and mail fraud. Now, if you don't remember this guy, during the COVID boom of watch dealers and watch market, he was a YouTube personality who showed off this lavish lifestyle while selling watches out in Texas and eventually Beverly Hills, with just trying to show the watch dealing lifestyle as being this big fancy thing where you can just roll up and buy $1 million watches and sell them for $2 million and live with Ferraris and things like that. And anyone who worked in the industry knew that this was absolute bull. If you do some back of the napkin math, and a few of us did while we were watching this show and just laughing at it, you know that he's selling on consignment. And even if he wasn't selling on consignment and was buying these watches at a larger margin, that there is no way he was churning enough over to afford a used BMW, let alone a Lamborghini and private jets he was flying around on. You knew there was something bad going on here. Now, what this guy was doing during this time was taking in people's watches that he was supposed to sell on consignment and take a small percentage portion of, but instead kept it all and just kept doing that. And when people asked for the money, he'd say, "Oh, it's not sold yet," or he would give them another watch to loan and put them off from not having to worry yet, or pay off some early guy and not later guys, get investors into it and just keep their money. It was a Ponzi scheme with watches. He spent time with these really sketchy dealers that love to go on YouTube and show like this big lifestyle or the behind the scenes of watch dealing where it's some high stakes thing. It's a bunch of guys standing around that all know the price of these watches. They're trying to just come to a deal, and it's no more exciting than people trading coins or selling cars. It's not an exciting, oh my God, lifestyle. It is a boring job, but you get to play with some cool watches. So if you ever see a personality out there on YouTube trying to show you this art of the deal or whatever stupid thing behind the scenes that it's some lavish lifestyle of buying and trading watches, they're lying to you. It's fake promotion, and don't trust them. Honestly, do not trust them. The average dealer, or the dealer you should trust, should be boring. They should be about what they're selling you as a product is good. What they're selling is trusted. It should be a good customer experience that comes from someone who's knowledgeable, who knows what they're doing. When you buy a watch, trust the seller, especially used and vintage watches. New watches, you can always trust an authorized dealer. But if you're going to someone who's selling a rare watch or high-end watch, trust the seller more than anything else. And if the seller is trying to be this big used car salesman blowhard, don't go there. Just don't run. Just run. That guy is not having your best interest at heart. He's trying to put on a YouTube show rather than actually be an honest broker. So as much as it's nice to see somebody get their comeuppance, where somebody was with Anthony Farah, the guy who is the most obvious and worst offender in this hobby, there are plenty others out there that you should not deal with and you should not trust, and they all look like him when it comes to being flashy and showy. Find the boring guy who knows what they're talking about. Trust the seller. They will treat you well, they will respect you, and they won't screw you over like this guy did. In Patek Philippe news, they discontinued a bunch of watches. Different moon phase and dual time Nautiluses, the Calatrava travel time, the steel bracelet Aquanaut, and a bunch of other watches. Honestly, the list is pretty big, and I assume that this is a precursor to the Watches and Wonders show that starts to release all of the new watches out in the world. So expect to see a lot from Patek that's new or updated in about a month or two. This is just a precursor to clean out the inventory for new watches, and that's not a bad thing. You need a little refresh once in a while, so we'll see what they come up with. In microbrand news, Jack Mason is celebrating their 10-year anniversary, and Jack Mason has gone from being, when they first started, this mall watch fashion brand almost, who actually designing their own watches and bringing out some interesting things, especially the Dr. Pepper GMT is a really good one that they've come out with. It's been an interesting journey for them in 10 years, and it's a watch brand that's actually run by a guy, Peter Cho, who has his background in watch design and Fossil originally, which is kind of cool because Fossil comes out with some great designs, but very budget friendly, not trying to be high horology or anything. Jack Mason, the brand, actually puts out some really great stuff. And with their 10-year anniversary, they're coming out with a new edition of their pilot's watch in 39 millimeters, grade 2 titanium. Inside is a La Joux Parade movement, which has an anti-magnetic core over it. A very old school way of dealing with anti-magnetism, but it works. On the front, you have the 10-year anniversary part, which the numeral 10 is a Roman numeral X, and the lume on it matches the hand, so it has a little different lume to it. It's a beautiful way to show a 10-year anniversary watch, and really, there's a lot of micro brands out there, and I would say Jack Mason is one of those that I appreciate, from the owner being a good guy and the designer being a good guy, to also being a brand that tries to do something a little bit different. They're just not copy and paste. They try to add their own spin to these very classic GMT or Pilots models, and they stick to it, and they put out a good product. And besides this, they do a dress watch that has a linen dial that's really beautiful. So Jack Mason is a brand that's worth checking out. Piaget came out with a new Polo. It's 44 millimeters, 9.8 millimeters thin, tourbillon, moon phase. I don't think anyone really likes these watches that much. They're okay. They're thin. That's kind of it. Expensive. This one's $100K. That's a tough sell. It's a really tough sell. Anyways, Hamilton brought out a new Chronomatic 50 chronograph. It's a really cool blue and orange looking 70s case, and has 2 levels of tachymeter, so you can actually time something down to 0 miles per hour, I guess, or 0 whatever per hour you want to do. But it's pretty. I kind of like the throwback. It's got a modified Valjoux 7070-50 in it, which is really solid movement. But the measurements on this thing are 48 by 52 millimeters. That is a chonking watch. Even these big cases that this comes from the 70s aren't that big. This is so close to being really cool because I love the look of the watch. I love the throwback, and it's fun when you use a limited edition to bring back some fun colors and try a new watch case and see what people think. But 48 by 52 millimeters, I'm a big guy, and that is a honking watch on me. It's maybe bring it down a little bit, Hamilton. Bring it back a little bit, and you might have a really popular watch on your hand, or at least a niche watch that people will appreciate. Maybe we'll see in the future. So next year, the Winter Olympics is in Milano, and Omega is already bringing out a watch for it. It's a very cool throwback Seamaster with these dog-leg lugs that come from the 50s and 60s Seamaster. In fact, I think it's based off a 50s Olympic Seamaster. It's 37 millimeters, Sedna gold, and the amazing part to me is white Grand Few enamel, not something Omega does often. In the end, beautiful watch. Its $20,000 price tag is a little high for what you expect from Omega, but it's gold, Grand Few enamel, METAS certified coaxial movement, and made only for the Olympics. The price tag is not that bad when you consider that. Any other solid gold Grand Few enamel is going to be pushing that price tag anyways. What I really like is this look. I have a 1960s Constellation that looks very much like the Seamasters of this time, and they're beautiful. The lugs that come off of this is gorgeous, and they're a little bit sharp on the new ones. The old ones had a little bit more flow to them, a little bit more design, and I'd love to see that come back. These classic sporty dress watches, really, from Omega, are some of the best deals you can get in the used market, and seeing them come back with that design is something I'd like to see more permanently, because man, do I love mine. I know other people that have theirs that is absolutely gorgeous. These vintage Seamaster and Constellations from this time are just, you can get them solid gold for a few $1,000s, and they are beautiful. I recommend, if you're looking for a dress watch, you're willing to spend a little bit, but you want some quality, those vintage Omegas, the Constellations and Seamasters from the 50s, 60s are such a great option. You have Pie-Pan dials, guilloche dials, you have just plain dials. There are a bunch of different options to find what you really like, but what this watch is based off of, they're some of my favorite vintage watches. So seeing Omega come out with it and go whole hog with enamel dial to celebrate, yes, the Olympics, which means it's not going to be produced too much or for too long, but it is a platform for it. Maybe the Omega will come out with more of these things if it's appreciated, if people like it. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but I like a little classic look. We'll see. I definitely, this one makes me happy. Grand Seiko came out with another limited edition watch. Stop it, Grand Seiko. Just make watches. Let's stop making them all limited editions. But anyways, SLGH027 Mt Iwate Edition. Yet another one of those. But this one has the Evolution 9 case and the newer 9S-A5 movement in it, which is a dual impulse, free sprung, high beat movement with an 80-hour power reserve. It's a lot technical in there, but the dual pulse movement is something between a typical Swiss lever you see in 95% of watches and Omega's coaxial. It still has some sliding friction in it, but it deals with two impulses. It's a bit more technical than what's worth getting into a Watch News recap, but research it, delve in, you get nerdy with it. It's a pretty cool movement, and it's had some problems when first launched because anytime you try new technology, there's some learning curve into it, but it has gotten better with time, and it's been a few years since it first came out. So the iterations of it now are starting to get more reliable, and Seiko definitely wants to be more reliable. Grand Seiko has done a great job of improving movements over time, more so than probably anyone outside of Omega, to be honest. So good on them on that. Now, when it comes to the actual case, the Evolution 9 case is a beautiful case, Zaratsu polishing, 40 millimeters, good size for most people. The ice blue dial is gorgeous. The Mount Iwate print is supposed to look like a volcano with all these lines going to the middle. It's a good dial. It's a great movement. At $10,500, it's starting to get pricier and pricier. Grand Seiko used to be that great bargain, this amazing amount of watchmaking at a reasonable price, but the prices have become double or more than what they were 4 or 5 years ago, and it's getting harder and harder to swallow. Yes, it's a cool movement. It's a limited edition, which is pretty much all Grand Seiko does, and you are asking for more than bigger name brands that will have better resale value, and you used to be compared against to be the really insider watch that people could get at a great price. Grand Seiko's starting to lose that. I love Grand Seiko. I own a few. What they do is great, but they need to watch out those price points because the competition they're going up against is going to be harder and harder, and the name recognition, because it's tied with Seiko, is harder and harder to sell outside of the small watch community at a higher and higher price point. So careful there, Grand Seiko. The price increases are getting a little silly. Stop making limited editions and focus on a core brand a little bit more. That's just my 2 cents. Of course, I don't run Grand Seiko at all, so they'll probably gladly ignore me. It's still a pretty watch with a really impressive technical innovation on the inside. So good on them. And lastly, Porsche Design came out with their annual Fat Ice Race Edition. Now, the fact that people take Porsche and other cars out to the Austrian Alps and race them on ice is just freaking cool. That's absolutely fun, the idea of it happening, let alone to see video and pictures of it. And for the past few years, they've released a watch to go with it, around 200 each as limited editions each year. And they've very much been throwback to the original 1972 Porsche Design chronograph. This year is a really cool little twist, or a simple but pretty twist, which is it has a white dial to go with the ice race. You think that would be normal and something they would have done early on, but they've really kept to the black dial of the original 1972. Now, it's still a titanium watch with a flyback movement based off of a Valjoux 7750 that they give some long Porsche name to me, say it's their movement, but it's a redesigned Valjoux 7750. Titanium carbide coated, so you have this pretty black coating, this white dial, which is actually a fully loomed dial, around $11,000, which for a limited edition flyback chronograph, Porsche design, not crazy, but there's definitely limit these to 200 because I don't think it would sell extremely well to have a full production run. But if you're a Porsche fan and you like something silly and you like that throwback to that original 1972 chronograph, which is a cool watch, these are fun. They come out with them every year. And if you're wondering what FAT stands for, it stands for some long German name. That was a logistics company that sponsored a lot of motor racing back in the 70s. So it's a name that they've kind of kept with and it's been used in Porsche and still used to kind of celebrate a heritage. Honestly, it's a good looking watch. It's probably the first one of this design that I would want to own myself. And more than that, I'm just glad that somebody takes expensive race cars and throw them on top of the Austrian Alps and says, hey, let's go racing. That's just silly. I like silly. That's fun. So that's it for this week's Watch News Roundup. Thanks for joining me. If there's any watches that we missed or any watches you'd like us to cover more of in the future, let us know in the comments. Have a good weekend.